Hey, it's Daniel Weiss, and you are listening to Average to Exceptional podcast. In today's episode, my guest is an amazing relationship and dating coach at Baxter. And as you will be able to listen to the podcast if you follow through, then you will hear him speak a lot of wisdoms. And I was amazed by how fluent he is at, just displaying his knowledge and sharing all the knowledge in a very comprehensive way. And we speak about modern masculinity, which I believe really needs to be addressed, especially nowadays, because many men struggle with masculinity, what it means to be masculine. And as a consequence, women struggle because of that. As a consequence of that, their relationships struggle. So we discuss two typical types of struggle men have. One is in the development process, and that is learning or how to find a partner, or even just if you are a social guy. Many times there are social guys who cannot find partner, and you're like, why the hell? Why can't I get a partner? Why can't I find that girlfriend? Why can't I find that girl that I would fall in love with? Or why does the girl doesn't like me? I mean, this my friend, he's totally shitty person. He has a girlfriend. Why can't I have? If you are somebody like that, this is one type of personality, and you should listen to this podcast. So you find out the purpose and how to navigate through purpose. What is the challenge? What is behind the challenge? Then there is different type of guys. The kind of guy who has been through maybe many relationships. There is the type of guy that maybe is going through a divorce, is after the divorce, and these are typically older guys. And if you are somebody like that, you want to improve your relationship, or you are after divorce and you are in the dating once again, then you should also listen to this interview, because you will find out how to redefine that, how to redefine yourself, how to make your next relationship much better, because it starts with the dating, right? And sometimes we do a shitty decision in the beginning, and it goes with us for next 10 20 years even, and then all there is left is like regret. So I want you to avoid it, and therefore listen to this interview. Having said that, sit back, enjoy, and listen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, most of the guys that come in my group, they're a little older. They have not been really in the pickup community. So it's a little bit different than David's group in that way. I don't really have to deal much with the old pickup mindsets. I do get sometimes some of the red pill community guys, but I usually can shut that down pretty quickly because of because of the nature of what it is. Um, my typical guy is he's usually a little older, probably in his 30s. He's probably gotten divorced, or he's going through a divorce, or he's struggled for a long time, and that's the typical guy. A lot of the coaching clients that I get, they if they're a younger guy, they want to just hey, how do I get better with women in general? And I really resonate with your heart-centered, unapologetic, authentic approach to this type of thing. And they never really wanted to be part of the pickup community anyway. They found that it was gross, and it was nasty. So I have the luxury of not having to teach men to unlearn those toxic mindsets. And and the other type of guy, which is usually the guy going through a divorce or has been divorced, he he's there mainly to, how do I save my marriage, or how do I get her back, right? And so they're trying to, like, how do I find out my own personal power, because I have not had that personal power for a long time. I just gave it to her, and I let her run the show and the family and everything, and it ran it right into the ground. And she left, and she's taking everything, and I'm devastated, and I don't know what to do with my life, because my life revolved around my family. And those are guys that typically don't have a lot of other male friends, and that kind of thing. So because they self-identify as introverted, and so I just deal with mainly those two types of guys.
Yeah, right. So basically, like you said, these divorce guys and the guy who are, let's say, new and don't really want to get into pickup or want to just basically get a girlfriend, right? Uh,
Well,
these are,
yeah, they just know that they just see other guys. They're like, why is this so difficult for me? What are they doing that I'm not? And then, I tell them, you just need to be more of who you are unapologetically. Because these guys are already nice people. They already come from the heart. And that's half the battle right there, right? Coming from the heart. If you can do that, and you have that kind of empathetic approach when resonating with people, then really you just got to get out of your own way. Get rid of the self-limiting beliefs and just opening yourself up, learning to open yourself up in an authentic way and realize that nobody's going to bite your head off, and that people really celebrate your quirks and all your little innuendos and those things. If you try to be safe, if you try to be generic, there's nothing for them to latch on to. You're just another face in the crowd. So I teach these guys, how do we just take who you are naturally and really emphasize that?
yeah, I love this authentic approach. And actually, what I see that in the community, I mean, what often happens, like these new guys, they want to get a girlfriend, they don't know how to do it, they search for the answers, and they end up in a like pickup forums or whatever, and they go for the quick fix approach, right? Like these are the lines to use, these are the surefire ways how to pick up a girl and sleep with any woman. And I mean, I was there and it sounds great, like, right? You at one point,
Yeah, it's like
you
you're
are
gonna be a
coming
kid
from the
kid in a
perspective,
sexual playground, and it's just doesn't work that way.
yeah, and that is like you are coming from a place where you have no power, no experience, let's say, you have no abundance, and then suddenly somebody is promising you all these sweet things, have as much sex as you want with as many girls, women as you want, and it's like very tempting, right? And appealing to this group or to this kind of person. So yeah, on the other hand, we want to guys like you who are really down to the earth and authentic. They want to help them to create the kind of lifestyle and relationships that last and are no bullshit in a no bullshit way, right?
Absolutely. And it's really interesting. And I was just talking to my wife about this morning. I call her my secret weapon because she has this amazing empathetic approach to things that I don't see it. And then with her input, sometimes if I have a problem with a man, I'm trying to figure him out so I can give him some fantastic advice so that he can, make a really quick change. Sometimes I'll ask her, hey, what do you think of this? And then that usually just makes it so much better. But what we were talking about was, shoot, I lost my train of thought. I got myself off on a rant.
Don't worry.
She's talking about
So I may add that like consulting with women, this is something what really has been working with me. Like when there is something that a guy needs help with, getting a women's perspective is sometimes very good. Ask your friend, ask your wife, ask a random person on the internet.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, like women can give you a really good advice in that perspective. Yeah, they have a different perspective at the thing.
Well, what she was saying is, and I absolutely agree, is, just if you want sex, that's the easiest part. It really is. I mean, you can go out and you can get sex. That's not the difficult part. You can go out there and you can be with a lot of women if that's really what you want. You're gonna have to deal with the karmic choice of that, which is, you have to deal with her emotions. You have to deal with, okay, does she like you? And now you're gonna break her heart, and because it's your sexuality and your personal and your intimacy and the stuff that's within you, it's all tied together. You can't just separate the sex from the emotional aspect of who you are. And I think that's a lot of mistake that these pickup guys think is like, oh, I can just have sex and have it for free. And it doesn't work that way. It's an exchange of energies with this other person. And if you want to go out there and have that, you can have that. And that's really the easiest part. And so, for a guy who has never had a girlfriend or never had sex, it seems like this insurmountable mountain. And I remember being there, being in that place. And, the allure of pickup is I don't have to give of myself. I don't have to go out there and say, oh, I don't have to put my heart on the table. I don't have to put my cards out there. And I can just have this fling with this woman with no strings attached, and it won't affect me. A lot like how when I watch porn and I can just have my quick fix and then move on. And I can have that validation from somewhere, but it's validation because from this woman. It doesn't work that way. There's an energetic exchange, and it's not like it's just a free ride. You know, if you want a free ride, go get a prostitute. But even then, you're going to pick up all the nastiness that she's carrying with her if you sleep with her. You know, and like I was saying, it's just the easiest part. The hard part is how do you cultivate these relationships with these women in such a way that you can do it in an authentic way and not hurt somebody, and or just have this boundary set properly. And then once you do, if you do find a woman you want to have a long-term commitment with, how do you navigate that properly? How do you lead the relationship in an authentic way and come from your true self, and you're not compromising yourself for the sake of the relationship?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there is this potential risk that, or what I've seen many guys go through, and that is that they develop some kind of strategy or some kind of approach, and they can pick up women and they enjoy this lifestyle and everything's working great. And suddenly they meet somebody who is like a person they fall for. Like there is this one girl, and suddenly they might be even able to attract her and start dating her. But like you said, that's a whole different kind of energy, a whole different kind of situation that they are. And it is a new kind of situation, and they don't know how to behave in it. And if this situation was created on a lie or in some kind of pretentious behavior or masking your insecurities, then all of these things will come up eventually, and there is no avoiding this, right? So I think
being in a relationship magnifies your insecurities. That's just the nature of it. It's designed. I think being in a relationship with a woman is designed, or with anybody, you know, a sexual relationship is designed to bring out those things within you that are hidden to you, bring them to the surface so that you can work through them. That's one of the reasons why I started GA. Was I think the quickest way to reach self-actualization is that be able to root out those things, and through relationships with the opposite sex, that is a very fast way of doing it. And everybody complains, oh, my woman's getting on to me for this or that. She's really just revealing those things about yourself that you've decided, you know, your unconscious thinking that you're unwilling to look at.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, it's a very quick way, very simple way how to find your insecurities and face them, right? But I think the problem is that many guys who are going through this are scared in some way and try to avoid facing these fears. So they just hide it behind this kind of mask of having some structured step-by-step guide that will lead them to the promised land.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is why we should also really like have a different kind of approach and really look deeply into us and work from inside out. And it's like if you are not comfortable being alone, then you will not be comfortable being alone in the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, sex.
Does it make sense?
What's that?
Does it make sense what I just said?
The last sentence I missed part of that last sentence that you're talking about.
Yeah, I said that, for example, if a person is a guy, for example, is not comfortable being alone by himself, enjoying his own company, then he will end up in a relationship, but he will still have these same challenges, even though he is in the relationship. He will still be facing these, like he might be in a relationship, but still feeling alone, still feeling insecurity.
Yeah, now you're talking about distracting yourself. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you can be in a room by yourself. Sure, you can be out there and you'll just be really bored. Like, okay, I'm just sitting here with my thoughts, and then at some point you're going to be like, this really sucks. I got to do something, right? I got to do something. The masculine energy is all about doing something, or making something, or just being still. And if you can't really, so what will happen is you'll distract yourself with having to do things all the time. I got to do something. I got to do something. I got to do something. You can't stay with your own thoughts and your own emotions. And that's really the key thing. Because if you can't sit with your own emotions, how are you going to help settle a woman's emotions? Hers are going to be a lot more. And she looks for the man to help her with that. If she could do it alone, she could do it alone most of the time, but she chooses not to. And that's one of the allures that she's going to have, is him helping her with that. And if you can't deal with your own stuff, how can you expect to deal with hers? And how can you expect her to trust you with leading her if you can't even deal with your own stuff? You can't even really get where you need to go in your own life. If you don't have your own purpose, you don't have your own passions, you can't control yourself, you're not going to be able to effectively leave the relationship. Yeah, you may find a woman who's insecure, and she'll say, and she's like maybe a little bit lower consciousness than you are in this, and she'll think, oh, he is better, he is higher than I am in this way, he can bring something to the table. But really, in that regard, you're just being a crutch for her. And you'll notice that in a lot of codependent relationships, like they're not really going anywhere. She'll be like, oh, I need you to stay here with me, I need you to be here with me and make me feel comfortable, as opposed to, I want you to go out and hang out with your friends, go have your own life and go do your own things, as an example.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, I think what you are also speaking about is like a difference in masculine and feminine energy, right? And there is definitely what we need to do, or what I see is that there needs to be also some polarity, definitely in a relationship, and there also needs to be the kind of masculinity that needs to be brought out in young guys, especially, I think. And in the modern world, modern society, I think this is the kind of thing that it has been pushed down to some extent, or it is used in a wrong way from my perspective. So maybe we could talk more about this, like how to develop this healthy kind of masculinity, so it helps the guys who are new to relationships with their relationships, and with attracting the right girlfriend and the right female into their life.
Well, the first thing I would say to a young man who's trying to figure this stuff out, is stop worrying about your feelings all the damn time and make yourself do the things you need to do. Because masculine energy is all about breaking through barriers, making stuff happen in the world. Going towards a compelling purpose, some compelling vision that you have for your life, and making it happen. And if you really search within yourself, you'll feel that if you find that purpose, you'll sacrifice everything to make that cause, even a relationship. And she needs to feel that strength. She needs to feel that strength, of that drive, of that purpose. If she doesn't feel that, she will question you about it. She will ask you things. Hey, why aren't you doing this? Why are you not doing that? Hey, why didn't you finish painting that room like you said you would? She can't trust that you'll do the things that you need to be doing. If you can't do the things you need to be doing, how can you lead the relationship? And she senses this on an intuitive level. And so you'll see a lot of young men nowadays, they'll say, well, I feel like I need to be doing this, and I don't really know what I want to do with my life, and I don't really, it's like, that's fine. You cannot know what you not want to do with your life. That's fine. But you don't need to be all messing around with your feelings all the time. Yeah, you shouldn't repress them. You should process them and feel them fully and stuff like that. But don't let them define your actions. As a man, you respond to challenge. So challenge yourself to do something you need to be doing. You know what you need to be doing. You're just choosing not to do it because, it feels good to lay in bed, or it feels good to eat too much or drink beer or watch porn, instead of doing the things you need to be doing. And that's the first thing that a lot of men these days have not had direction on, is how do you discipline yourself to make the shit happen in your life that needs to happen? At some point, you need to bitch slap your inner child and make some stuff happen. And then, as you're doing that, There's a balance, of course. You don't just do that to the extreme and just say, well, I'm just not going to be an emotional guy, because, they say, throughout history, men have been told, don't feel your emotions, don't do all this and that. But it's kind of gone to the other extreme at this point. And it's like, yeah, you need to feel your emotions. You need to process them effectively. Don't deny them, but don't let them stop you from doing what needs to happen for you. And that's been the big problem I've noticed, that they'll just say, well, I don't really have anywhere I'm going with my life. I'm just kind of wistfully moving around. I don't really know what my purpose or my direction is. And that's fine. You can make your purpose finding your purpose. And your purpose may change. Don't ever expect completion in anything that you do in your life, because it's going to change at some point. You're going to say, like for right now, for GA, right now, I'm trying to help as many men as possible, grow it up, see how it goes, turn it into my full-time career. But then at some point, who knows what it's going to do? I'm not going to hold on to that old thing and say, well, I got to stick to this forever. I may not need to do that anymore. Things may change, but I have the drive and the direction. Like if I got to do a blog post, I'm not going to just not do the blog post because I'm not feeling it that day. No, I'm going to sit down at the computer. I'm going to start writing. If it's not coming out well, I'm going to keep writing until it does come out right. And I set the goal and I achieve the goal, so that I define my day by success instead of by failure. And men are always continually doing this. And this is a lot of the wistfully nature and the depression that you'll see in young men, is that they, because we're always continually thinking, am I defining right now by success or failure? At any given point in time, that's how the masculine's thinking. Am I being successful right now, or am I failing? And if you can't get out of bed in the morning, you've already defined yourself by your first failure. And that takes energy from you. So now the next task takes more energy from you, because now you fail again. I didn't brush my teeth. Got up at 11 o'clock because I stayed up too late last night. So really the night before, you've defined your next day by failure. And that's a lot of the time, that's why I say morning routines are very important. Define your day by success, start making stuff happen, and then you'll start getting into your masculine energy naturally. You'll start making things happen. You'll start feeling proud of yourself. Start feeling more confident because you're going to the gym. You're doing the things that you need to do. And it's a muscle like anything else. Discipline is a muscle, and it's very important for young men to learn how to have this discipline and to get off all these distractions, like getting on your cell phone and messing around with video games and and porn, and trying to do pickup stuff, which is just another distraction from dealing with your own internal stuff, and really just making shit happen for yourself. Once you start getting into that masculine essence of making stuff happen, you'll naturally start, other things in your life will start to align around that. You'll start qualifying women differently because they don't fit in with your compelling vision for your life. You'll be more confident because you're just going to have some success. You'll have some failure, but you'll have some success, and then you'll start feeling more confident in that, and you'll start believing in yourself, and your self-esteem will jump as well. And you'll just start being the man that you're really supposed to be. And you won't stop apologizing for who you are, because you will know who you are at this point. You'll have defined your character. You'll have defined yourself in this way. So that's what I would say for young men.
Yes, this sounds really great, Ed. I really love your kind of how you think about it, how you see it. It's like this big picture approach, and this I see that guys fail to see, and I really love the way how you described it in a very tangible and I think understandable way, easy to understand. And I also love this portion when you actually said, like, make your purpose to find your purpose if you don't know it. And this is something that we were discussing also with Philip in my last podcast. And this was like, when you don't know what you want to do, like in a business, you go and try out different things. So you don't stay sedentary, you don't stay thinking about it, because I mean, by just thinking, you don't really know. And when you go out in the world, you start exploring things, start trying new things, you will find out things that you might not even think about, and maybe you are excited about. You will find that you are passionate about some physical activity you have that you have not been until that point. And I think this is exactly the thing, that many people get stuck in that, like, I don't have the purpose. So, okay, so make your purpose to find your purpose. Suddenly you have the purpose, right?
Well, that's the only, exactly. That's the easiest approach, because guys, they think, oh, it's going to come down from heaven and it's be bestowed upon me. I'll figure it out one day. It'll just happen. No, it doesn't just happen. Anything worth anything in life is going to take some work, including finding your purpose. I'm 37, but I didn't really discover that this is really what I wanted to do until maybe a couple of years ago. That's a long time, as an engineer and doing other things. But the reason it took so long is because I didn't take that approach. If I had taken that approach, maybe I would have had it in my mid-20s. Who knows? But then again, I wouldn't have had the life experiences that led me to be able to do this the way I am now. So you never know. Maybe my whole life was led up to it. I don't know. It's these weird existential questions in that way. And I think a lot of young men think, especially, you'll get like the more timid guys, the more introverted guys, the gamer types. They're like, well, I'm just not a strong guy and all that stuff. And to that, I say bullshit. Men by design are not weak. They grow through challenge. They grow through dealing with hardship. As iron sharpens iron, you got to go through the fire if you want to get to the confidence on the other side. You got to really push yourself. You got to always be living just past your edge every day if possible. And you will, and no man is it's just by design. That's how you're designed as a man, is you go through the fire, challenge yourself, have other men challenge you. That's why the military is set up the way it is, and they're really extreme in that. They understand it very well, that you push a man past his boundaries, and then he'll realize that he's got a lot more in him than he thought.
Yeah, right. And actually, when you are mentioning also challenge, this is one of the points that I want to discuss. And challenge when it comes to women. Like, we had a discussion with one guy in one of the Facebook groups, and he was all about, or we were talking about challenge, and challenge in a form of competing with other guys for women. And so how do you view this kind of competition? Because my comment on the topic was like, okay, if there are 3 women, for example, in a room, and you are 4 or 5, whatever number of the guys, and you are competing for one girl, like how do you win this competition? And my comment was actually, you don't compete with them, like you be yourself and step away from.
Well, I mean, if it was like in 1800s when you had people coming over the 1500s, when you had people coming to America and there was a shortage of women, then yes, this would be a valid point. How do I get this woman over this man here? Because there's just not enough women to go around. That's valid. That's not modern society. Modern society is more like, how do I? No, there is no competition. Fuck competition. That's stupid. I mean, why are you competing for a woman anyway? That's crazy. You should be going towards your vision. All that energy you're spending trying to compete with a woman for a woman's attention and stuff, you should be spending on what your compelling vision is and where you're going to go with your life, and how can that align, and how can the women around you that want to be a part of that vision, how can they align themselves into what you've got going on, right? So when you go there, like go to the party and there's 3 women, there's 15 guys, and you go to talk to them and they're not giving you the time of day, so what? Go hang out with the guys. I mean, what are you trying to do? You're just trying to get laid that night? Okay, well then maybe go somewhere else where there's more women or something. It doesn't matter. There's no reason to compete for women. There's plenty of women around. No woman is any extra special versus another one. That's just as far as having a mate for you or a partner for you. And the women who like you, they'll make it easy for you anyway. There's no competition. They're going to say, hey, I like this guy, because he can be himself. He can come from the heart. He's not afraid to be who he is. And I like that. I like those quirks and everything, because that's very rare in men in general, is to be able to do that and just come from the heart unapologetically. It's rare. And that stands out like a sore thumb anyway. So if you take that into account, then you don't have competition there either.
Yeah, love it. And exactly, that was my point, and I think he misunderstood, but I thought that this would be a very good thing to bring out and to really explain to all the listeners, especially the young listeners, like you said, there is really no competition. And if you are thinking that, well, as a male you need competition, right, I agree. But like you mentioned already, competition in the presence or in the form of challenge through army, maybe through sports or whatever, yes, that's healthy, definitely. But competing for one woman, it's like irrelevant in today's society, right? We are not on an empty island where there is like 3 guys and 1 woman.
Well, then now you're talking about survival mechanics at that point. Then you just got to be the best man you can be. You got to be the strongest, the fastest, whatever. And everybody knows that instinctually. So there's not really any point talking about this here, because if you're on an island and there's 10 guys and there's 2 women, you either got to be the strongest, most badass guy, or you got to be the sneaky bastard. And neither one of those sounds pleasant. But you already instinctively know that that's what you got to do. Nobody's got time to be worrying about higher consciousness level at this point. It's just species survival at that point. And that's kind of tragic, but that's kind of how it goes. But I mean, we don't have to worry about that. We're in a modern society and everything's going great. And not to discount that wouldn't take into account on the island anyway, but yeah, anyways.
Yeah, so basically to wrap this up, for this part of the podcast, I would say that what we discussed was masculine, feminine energy and competition, challenge, how to bring out the masculine out by challenging yourself. And David Deida describes, actually, maybe you have it from him, maybe not, but the masculine energy is like empty. And like you also mentioned, it's like a rock in the ocean. So a woman wants you to be rock solid and have your vision and basically not get swayed by her mood or whatever. And if she feels like you are not rock steady, then she will pick up on it and try to bring it out from you and she will start making comments like, yeah, why haven't you thrown out the trash, and why you haven't done this and that. And yeah, it's, I think,
well, usually comments like that is when a guy doesn't have a clearly defined vision.
Excuse me?
When there's comments like that, like you haven't done certain tasks, that means you haven't prioritized your life as far as tasks go, or you're not doing what you said you'd do. So like if she's nagging on you about things that you need to be doing, typically what she's saying is, hey, by the way, you're not doing what you need to be doing in life. And taking the trash is just one manifestation of that. Actually, it's the most basic manifestation of that, and you can't even take out the trash. How can you be expected to find your riches in this world? Now, if she's saying stuff like, well, I think that other guy's good looking and stuff like that, that means she's not getting enough attention. Hey, you're not being the man for me that I need you to be. And I think the big problem with guys is that they take a lot, and this is a trap that a lot of guys get into with Deida, and he doesn't espouse this. If you read what he's talking about, it's actually quite opposite. But men will take responsible for everything a woman does. They say, well, I'm obviously not being masculine enough. I'm not being this enough. I'm not being that enough. Yes, it'll lead. She may point in these directions, but it's up to you to determine if that's true or not. And you're not responsible for all the actions of a woman. And a lot of pickup guys fall into this too. Like, oh, if she's treating me badly, I'm just not doing things right. At some point you got to say, no, cut the fucking shit and say, no, I'm not going to accept this in my life. And that's not where I'm going to. Maybe you find a better woman. A lot of guys get trapped in that. You are not. And just because you make one mistake doesn't mean she's going to turn around and screw the guy next door. That's another big scare that pickup guys will use. They'll say, oh, if you're not being this, then she's going to go do this with this other guy. And they use that fear of cheating to try to get these guys in line to do this stuff. And it's not true at all. It's like a big scale. She's not going to do that. Women are loyal by nature. They're not going to try to jump on at the next opportunity unless you're dating a narcissist. But that's a mental disorder. That's not, now you're dealing with mental disorders. You're not dealing with normal, healthy women.
Yeah. So what would be your advice, like, what, to wrap it up again, for these young guys who are, let's say, finding their way and new to dating women, and let's say, yeah, typically these are younger guys in their 20s?
Just on dating women, don't be so hard on yourself. Learn to love yourself a little bit. Learn to love yourself. Realize that you're a good guy with good intentions, and you're just going out there to connect with her. You're not a creepy guy. You're not any of this stuff. You're just a normal guy going out to connect with somebody. And if they don't like that, if they're mean to you for that, that tells you more about them than it does about you. You're the good guy. They're the bad guy at that point. If she's going to snap your head off because you're being nice to her and you're being authentic and you're coming from the heart, it says a lot more about her than it does about you. It shows that you're a nice person and that she's not a nice woman. And at that point, maybe you don't want to be with her, right? I mean, disqualify her from your life. Like, okay, thank you for showing me that you can't even be nice to a stranger. I think I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Don't be so hard on yourself with these things. Yeah, push yourself. Push yourself as hard as you can. Push yourself further than you think you can go, and really push towards that, but balance it out and be kind to yourself. Give yourself that feminine energy that you feel like you're seeking from her, which is that comfort and compassion. I think Deida says it pretty eloquently in that way. He says, your relationship with yourself is your relationship with the feminine.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And actually, now that I'm reflecting back on my early stages of self-development, when I was, for example, even had a girl's number or her contact, then I was trying to schedule a date with her or whatever, basically to meet up with her, I had really nothing going on in my life, nothing that I was really passionate. I had a lot of free time, and I was just, let's say, I would call it lost in life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I reflect on that and compare it to nowadays, if I want to meet with somebody, I really need to pick my priorities and work my schedule around it. So this is exact opposite thing. And it also helps with dating, like I wouldn't go on a date with just anybody, but with somebody who is really worth it, right? And it creates a completely different kind of energy from my perspective. It affects the woman or any person, so to speak, who I try to schedule meeting with or whatever. They need to be worth my time, really, to go with them, to have a Skype call with them, to have an interview with them or whatever, because I have other things to do.
That's true. That's true. And one fallacy that I've noticed that young men take, especially if they come from the pickup crowd, is they feel like they have to be with 1,000 women to get women and be successful and that stuff, and to be and to master these types of things. And it's simply not true. You'll go much further in 4 long-term relationships, or even 2, than you will if you slept with 50 women. You'll go so much further. You don't need to do all that. It's ridiculous, because you don't learn all the other stuff. You don't understand her. So that I've come across that quite a bit. Oh, I feel like I need to sleep with 100 women to understand women, and then I'll be able to find the woman of my dreams. It's like, that's not true. You'll go a lot further if you dated in a long-term relationship 2 to 4 women than you would if sleeping with 50.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. So, yeah, let's speak about the other group of men that you mentioned, and these are the divorced men or who want to try to save their relationship. So, what do you suppose? What would be the best advice you can give them?
It's not your fault, man. That's the first thing. It's like, it's not your fault. You just, maybe you do own some of it, but usually what's happened is the women have left them, and they're killing themselves. They're beating themselves up. They're like, I caused all this. It's all my fault. She left because of me. They forget to understand that she made a choice. well, she cheated on me because I couldn't be the man that I need to be. That's not true. She made a choice. She also made a choice to commit to you, and she decided to not and to renege on that promise and not be faithful to you. And she also made a choice to leave you. And so she made a choice to not be present in the relationship for whatever reason. And they forget that there's the other half of the story. And they take it all on themselves. And men will do that, you know. That's the fallacy of the masculine. I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to save all the women. I'm going to fight all the bad guys. I'm going to lift all the heavy objects. I'm going to open all the cans, you know. It's like, you don't have to be, I'm going to kill all the spiders, you know. You don't have to be the hero. It's not your job. And it's not your responsibility to make her a good woman. Your responsibility is to yourself and to make you the best man you can be. And if she wants to be on board with that, that's great. And usually the place that the men fail are, they weren't doing that. And she was looking for that, and she thought she had that in the beginning, and he didn't do that. And so then she decides to do whatever. And it doesn't excuse that kind of behavior. It doesn't excuse her cheating on him. You know, she needs to be in there 100%. You know, you're married. There's a reason you make the commitment, you stick with it. But with that being said, you know, you need to have your healthy boundaries as well. So okay, we're in this position now where she's doing whatever. She says she doesn't love you. She's doing whatever. Great. Now you're going to do the same thing that I tell you young guys. It's the same. That's the great thing about what we teach at GA is you do the same thing. You do the same thing if you're single. You do the same thing if you're married. You do the same thing if you're divorced. You always do the same thing. It's not like you don't have to pick and choose tactics. It's because it's not tactical. It's just mindsets. And that is follow your compelling vision. Be your unapologetic, heartfelt self. You do that, she'll come around. But more often than not, when guys do that, they find that they kind of start resenting her because they're like, well, she hasn't done shit for years. And now she's not doing anything now. Why do I want her anymore? I don't want her anymore. And they turn the tables turn, you know, once he finds his own power in himself. And that's all men are really looking for when their wife tells them they don't love them anymore or that she wants a divorce. They just feel powerless. And really all they want is to feel their own power again, to feel their own strength, like they matter in the world, they can make some shit happen, and that they are not just a victim of circumstance. And that's what we do. We'll get you there. We'll get you there, and more often than not, two things happen. One is, she says, after it's about 12 weeks, 3 to 4 months is usually about how long it takes. I've kind of noticed. She says, I want to work on things. She comes around. Or the other side is, he says, or he realizes his value and he's like, she's actually been a horrible person to me for years and I'm not going to put up with that anymore. I actually don't want the relationship now. Now I'm the one stepping out because she's not growing. She's not a growth-minded individual. So those are the two scenarios that happen. And it's pretty consistent that way in those time frames too. But boy, it's an emotional roller coaster for those guys. And I can definitely empathize with it because I've been in that situation too. And I failed in that. One of the reasons why I do GA now. I figured out how to not fail in that.
So based on what you said also, I think that one thing that is important to say, that especially with the older guys, it's like when they have a relationship and they let's say they try to make the relationship work after some time or get divorced or whatever. Also think about how this relationship was created, how they got into it in the first place, because sometimes, and this was like what happened with my mother 2-3 times, she got into a relationship because she was not comfortable being alone. And you know, this is the kind of situation that you don't want, from my perspective, to enter a relationship, right? Not to be alone.
Yeah, I mean, we do. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We replicate the relationships we had with our parents and the ones that we saw growing up, you know, and they say that by a child's 8 years old, they've already internalized all that stuff. How do the parents treat each other? How do they treat you? And so we do that. If we go on autopilot and we're not intentional with what we want, we will end up seeking out that exact same scenario. and we won't be fulfilled. We won't understand what's going on, what's wrong. And it's just a way to seek comfort because that's what's familiar.
Yeah, definitely. And yes, so basically, to expand on that story, what happened is that she was in a relationship which she was not satisfied with, and well, she tried to make it better. She was also doing these things like we mentioned. She was pointing out and picking on my father and so on, like to bring out his masculinity, which I think was suppressed in some way. And by doing that, she sacrificed herself because I was born, and she stayed in that relationship for another 20 years. And so this was like 20 years of her happiness that has been really compromised. And I see it's like, from my perspective, it's like a big suffering. And I wouldn't like anybody to experience that, right? That suddenly after 20 years, you quote unquote wake up and you realize that, whoa, I made a shitty decision, but not only I made a shitty decision, but I stayed with the decision for 20 years. So then she actually left that relationship with my father. And after some time, she met another guy, but she started dating him for another 1-2 years, but because she felt alone. And I see that, of course, this is not the one sole example of this problem or of the same topic. I see it happening with many people around. Like they feel alone, they feel lonely, and therefore they will go with anybody. And they say to themselves things like, yeah, but nobody's perfect, so I need to sacrifice, I need to compromise on some things and so on. But anybody who is outside of the relationship, who is not looking from the perspective of being lonely, they don't feel like you do, they will tell you like, no, but this person is not right for you. But because we have this emotional kind of barrier, we have this kind of pink glasses or whatever, we make a bad decision in that way, and we compromise our integrity and our values. So I would really love to point this out, because this is something that I believe that people need to really internalize and get aware about. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And that's and what you're talking about is a codependency. You're like, I don't have to grow. I don't have to deal with my loneliness if you'll agree, and I'll deal with your bullshit if you'll agree to just stick around and keep you from being lonely, even if it's not healthy. And that's a big thing, and I encourage men, seek out other male friends, have more male friends, because you cannot make her your relation. You can't make your relationship all of your social interaction. You can't do it. She can't be everything to you, nor does she want to be. You should be going out in the world and doing other things. You should be going out and having friends, having a good time and stuff, and and let her take care of you while you're at home. But don't, if you're ever saying, I stay home with me, baby, I'm going to miss you, and you've been hanging out for the last 5 days, there's something going on. I mean, why can't she go? Why can't you go out and have fun with your friends? Make other male friends. I find a lot of men in that situation don't have a lot of guy friends. They don't know how to go out and have a good time. They're afraid to get out of the house because they're afraid they're going to get admonished for it. So yeah, what you're saying, loneliness, feeling lonely. How can you be your own best friend? What do you need? What do you need to give yourself that you're seeking from her? How can you give that, and how can you give that to yourself, and really use that introspection in that way?
Yeah, that's a great point. And well, is there anything else that you can think about, or is it like all when it comes to divorced people?
I think that's how it always comes down to. You just say, okay, well, if I feel like if I need something from somebody else, then maybe I need to look, if I need that externally, I need to look within myself.
Yeah.
And say, what is it that I need to be given myself that I'm seeking outside? And how can I do that? The answer might not come today or tomorrow or 2 months from now, but it should be something you should be actively working on. Learn to be your own best friend.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think what you mentioned is really like to expand your social circle and not necessarily look for that you are missing from a romantic partner, but maybe from a friend, maybe from somewhere else, and find out, because sometimes we, I think, mistake one emotion for another, or yes, we just think we are lonely when we are actually bored.
That too, yeah, that can be mistaken for that way. And one thing that happens too, if you don't have other guy friends, like if you're having problems like with your job, you're trying to figure out what to do with your job, or you're having problems with this person or that person, you talk to your guy friends about that. You don't go vent to your woman about all your worldly problems, right? You come to her, she needs to see your direction. She needs to feel a sense of certainty and that you got things handled. If you come to her all the time, you're like, well, I don't know what to do about this, and I don't know what to do about that, and you're sitting there waxing eloquently and trying to think and talk and just kind of rummage around for solutions out loud in front of her, she's gonna be like, okay, I understand. Now you've done a pole reversal right there, right? Polarity. So now you're the one doing the venting, and she's the one trying to come bring it to a conclusion, right? Get you to a position of where your certainty is. Okay, well, maybe you should do this, or maybe you should do that. At some point, she can get tired of that. She's like, just make a fucking decision, man. Yeah, man, make a decision and go for it. And guys will tell you the same thing. They'll be like, okay, you've been whining about this for the last 3 months. When are you going to do something about it? And guys will help you out. They'll help you get to a solution. And then they'll challenge you to actually do it. And then you can do that. And it's much more effective to do it with the men than it is to do it with your wife. And then you can bring it back to your wife. Hey, by the way, I decided, I was talking to the guys, and I think that this is a really good direction I should go. She said, oh, great, awesome. You saved me from having to do that for you, to be that guy for you, to talk about these things. And a lot of guys get that, they do that. Like they won't have the guy friends, and they'll go and they'll do that as well with their wife. And it's just not, and you can do it, but you gotta, there's just a lot of, it's easy to step in it and not do it properly.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing. But there is one more thing I would like to actually discuss, and this is like how we sometimes mistake one thing for another. And the concrete example would be like this typically with the younger guys, and they think I want to have sex. Basically, we also already touched this point, that they think they want to have sex and meet 1,000 women in order to get better with women, but in reality it would be better for them to actually have a 2-3 stable relationships and to learn in that way. Or maybe they don't even want a relationship, maybe they just want a female friend or whatever, just to be in touch with that feminine energy, have that feminine energy in their life. And the common denominator that I see with these younger guys who cannot really enter a relationship, it's not that they don't have the social skills, it's not that they are not outgoing, that they cannot communicate or are not in touch with themselves or whatever, but it's that they have some kind of mindset problem, like they are preventing themselves from getting to that state, getting into relationship. And like we mentioned, it can be also because they picked up these things or learned these things from their parents. They observed their parents, they in many cases less than ideal relationship, and they do things that prevent them from entering this kind of relationship. So I think what guys need to really do is to do this exploration, like maybe even meditation, and think about like what I'm doing, is it like because I'm lacking social skills? Is it because I'm lacking or I'm not taking action? And if I'm not taking action, why is it? Is it because deep down I don't want to get into relationship and it's kind of self-sabotage, or is it some another inability, disability, or whatever else? What's your take on that, Ed?
So you're asking me how can I convince a guy that a longer term relationship is better for him than a short term one in his journey to get better with women?
Excuse me?
I guess I was misunderstanding the question. Oh, what can you ask me the question again?
Yeah, I mean the point is that guys, or we sometimes we think that we need to develop some kind of social skills, or that we need to approach 1,000 women to get better with women, or do these kind of things. But in reality, many times we just have some kind of mindset problem that prevents us from finding the girlfriend. Like we are self-sabotaging ourselves from some perspective because of our programming
Right.
that we learned from our parents' relationship.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, there's several ways of self-discovery, right? You can try to do meditation, like you were saying, or you can get out and do something. I find that actually getting out and doing something tends to be a little quicker approach, because you can imagine things all day long while you're sitting on a meditation pad, but unless you go out there and do it, you're not going to really experience it. And so I would encourage men to do as much as you can, and then on your downtime, use the meditation to help moderate your emotions. And really, the only thing stopping you is yourself, right? So how can you be, like, again, how can you be what you need for yourself, so that you don't need the validation of people around you? Because the thing that stops men mostly is like the fear of whatever, like the fear of this person's going to say that or this or anything else. But the only way to go through it, to get past to the other side, is to do that thing, and it'll step through the fear and make it happen. So, like, okay, well, my mindsets are stopping me. What mindsets do you have? Identify them, and then you just start knocking them out. Okay, well, I'm afraid that she'll say this. So you go into a scenario where she could say that and see what happens. She doesn't say it, like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't a big deal. Or maybe she does. You're like, well, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And so it's a process. You just go through the process. You have to see for yourself. You can't teach experience. And that's why it's so important. I'm a firm believer that everybody has the social skills necessary, the attraction mechanism necessary within themselves, if they could be kind to themselves and be unapologetically who they are. Come from the heart, know that you're a good guy, and just show them your quirks. Have a little courage to show people who you really are. You have to be vulnerable enough to be rejected, ironically, to get over the fear of rejection.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't have actually any questions for you anymore. Anything more to discuss? I think we touched all the points that I wanted to discuss with you, but I don't know, maybe you have some message for the guys listening to this podcast, or you have something else you would like to add? If so, then this is the best time, I would say.
Okay, yeah, I mean, like I was saying before, I'll reiterate again. Be your heartfelt, unapologetic self. That should be your goal. Challenge yourself. Don't be afraid to give your inner child a bitch slap every once in a while, and just make yourself do something. And know what you want. Really determine what it is you want. If you're trying to get into, if you're doing this from the approach of dating relationships, determine what kind of woman you want. Make a list of the traits that she should have. On my website, Genuine Attraction, you can go on there, and it's called Finding Your Muse. That's one of the basic things. Like, all the guys in the group, like, well, I'm really trying to do this and that. Like, well, what do you want? So you go through that, you put your email in there, and it tells you exactly how to go through that whole finding your muse, which is a woman who absolutely knocks your socks off and inspires you to be a better man. Because that's really what we want to do, right? When we find, if we're dating, the whole point of dating is at some point it turns into something fantastic and awesome. You find this unicorn of a woman. Okay, well, how do we find that? How do we get to that? How do we short circuit that process? And I would say, this is how you do it.
Yeah, that's great. And well, how about people who want to get in touch with you? What would be the best way for them to meet you? You already mentioned your website, but maybe
yeah, you can contact me, ed@genuineattraction.com, or you can go to the website and you will see you can do any of the email opt-ins, and it'll set you up with email that way. Or you can join the Facebook group, Genuine Attraction. There's also a link on the website to get to that group as well. So the Facebook group, that's where a lot of the discussion is going on. It's a pretty cool group. We got about 750 guys now, and it's growing pretty significantly. We're getting about 10, 15 people a day now, and it's growing. So get in there. There's a lot of really mature discussion. Not a lot on pickup tactics. If you're a pickup guy, probably not the place for you. If you're a red pill community kind of guy, also probably not the place for you. Probably should go somewhere else. But if you want to really connect from the heart, to be your unapologetic self and really get your confidence handled in a relatively short amount of time, and by that I mean weeks, then come over to GA.
Yeah, I definitely love your group, actually, this Facebook group. And like you mentioned, there are like not pickup tactics. So probably for a guy looking for ways how to approach women and so on, they will not find the right answer. But
I mean, if they're looking for specific tactics, we'll throw one or two at you, but we're not going to get into stuff like you hear that community talk about, like sets and closing and all that weird. We're not going to get into all that because it's unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary. You can short circuit all of that by just doing what we do at GA. It's an inferior approach. It really is.
Yeah, and I mean, also the name Genuine Attraction, I think it's the right name for it, because the conversations that go there, the kind of questions that guys ask there, they're on a different level. So I really enjoy being in that group, and just reading all these comments and the kind of, not even problems, but the discussions that go on there. So definitely would recommend people to join it, because there is a lot of value, like from yourself and also from the other people who post there. So yeah, that Facebook group is definitely a place to be.
Well, I appreciate that, man. We work really hard to try to get it, a quality group.
Yeah, so Ed, thank you very much for your time. And
thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. I love talking about this stuff, so I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Yes, and hopefully we will connect also next time. Maybe even see each other face to face. I would really love to meet you sometime. And yeah, so basically that's the end of this episode.
Absolutely. I might be in and around Germany sometime next summer, but I don't know if I ever go over to Budapest or any of those areas that you've been in. But that's my wife's from Germany. She's actually Polish. Her parents were Polish immigrants into Germany.
Ah, okay.
So we visit there. What's that?
That's all around me. To Budapest, I have like 2.5 hours. Actually, that's where I recorded the conversation with Philip, because he moved in there. And yeah, I mean, it's even closer to my parents' house. To Budapest from where I live than to my parents' house.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got to pull out a map. I'm just a dumb American who just thinks everything revolves around the U.S. and I got to learn more about what's going on over there. So, so I got to look at it. I got to figure out what's going on. I mean, the locations of all these places. I'm gonna check it out when we get off this.
Yeah, definitely. So once more, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all the energy that you shared, and have a great rest of the holidays. And well, upfront, Happy New Year.
All right, man. You too. Have a good New Year's, and I'll talk to you soon. Maybe we'll meet up sometime.
Yeah. Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, bye.
Hello guys, I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Average to Exceptional with Ed Baxter on topic of relationships, and I hope that you got as much value from it, or at least as much value from it as I did. I mean, when I was listening to the podcast, when I was editing it, I couldn't stop making notes. And if you are somebody who has problems with a relationship or simply wants to improve it, wants to get a girlfriend, wants to get a boyfriend, wants to improve with your current relationship, wants to be a happy person or lead much more happy life, challenge yourself and grow, then you definitely deserve to contact either Ed Baxter or myself. And having said that, there is one more thing. And if you really like the podcast, then I would appreciate if you liked it, if you subscribed. You can subscribe to the newsletter by following the link in the show notes. That way you will be always notified about the new podcast episode. But also, I send one email every week. And this email is all about inspiration. What I learned, typically it is something that has to do with mindset, and it has to do with nutrition or health in general. So, besides that, follow Ed Baxter, join his Facebook group that has been mentioned in the podcast. You will get a lot of value from it. Enjoy the rest of your day.